We just finished our first playthrough digitally of 1812, the invasion of Canada. Stick around and find out our thoughts here on Legendary Tactics.
So I've played this game a fair bit, mostly against the AI in this digital format.
Yeah.
And this was your first or second game through?
Yeah, we played a couple together there. Yeah,
Yeah.
It was our first full playthrough anyway.
Yeah, maybe. No, I think we played. This is your second full playthrough. So,
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And so what are your thoughts as a player newer to the game? Because this game is considered to be something of a gateway game, something that you can bring out and introduce new players to wargaming and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it seems like it's really like skirmish based, I would say. Like there's a lot of like little skirmish based. Playing as the American side, it just feels like there's endless holes that I have to plug. And that was one thing that was really like, there's just all these little counties and spots that there's just no way you can actually plug all the holes effectively.
Yeah.
And that was, I'm sure that's very intentionally by design and probably even maybe very accurate to history.
Yep.
But that was one. It just felt almost like that avalanche is coming, and I'm sure from the Canadian perspective, it's the same, or the British, it's the same kind of feeling.
Oh yeah. But really, there's three fronts. You've got the kind of Detroit area, you have the Buffalo area, and then you have the kind of, I guess, Cornwall, Montreal,
like the
area.
East.
Yes, and then the sea movement is added in to kind of mix things up. In the game that we just played, we happen to get all of our sea movement cards at the beginning, which is very unusual.
Yeah, it was very rare. Yeah, I haven't seen
because
that.
Normally,
it's kind of spaced in there, probably, right?
Yeah, and they can be really disruptive because you can think that an area is quite safe, and then suddenly
troops get around you, right?
Lake movement, and suddenly everyone's behind. Yeah, and you're cut off, or your area, which is kind of weakly defended, suddenly gets attacked. So, yeah. So, but overall, like, what were your thoughts on the game? What did you like? What did you dislike?
Well, I mean, now speaking to the digital platform, I think there's I wish there'd be a smoother, cleaner finish, polish on the 2-player version, like the 2-player game. It just felt a little bit awkward that it was almost like a play-by-email approach to the way the Steam platform runs it.
Yeah.
So that's one just kind of maybe maybe for requiring some kind of update or patch would really help. I think people play that game more effectively 2-player.
I agree. Like a live play would be amazing, but I doubt that's coming down the pike. This game it's been out for a few years.
Right. I'm guessing that probably the footprint for it's a little bit smaller than some other games, but that being said, it would the play by email approach is a little annoying if you're trying to play it live. So
yes.
The other thing and it's just a little pet peeve of mine, is the battle rolling of the die. Oh, I wish it would go a little smoother, and I mentioned it in the gameplay too, but that's one thing that could
just
could
kind of they
up.
Roll. Sometimes they take a little while to settle,
or they land on their edge.
They land
which is an amazing die roll in reality. I mean, if you can pull that off. What were your thoughts, Nato?
Well, I've played this game a fair bit, and I actually don't know if I like 1775 better or 1812 better, but I do really like this game, and I think it's kind of it's neat because it's true to the history in that you can cross the border, you can take a fort, you can take one of the towns, but to hold on to it is actually tough because eventually enemy troops are going to arrive in strength, and you either have to retreat or just die gloriously in battle trying to hold on to it. But so I think the game naturally, even though it doesn't dictate it just the nature of it and the way that everything works, it actually feels like the War of 1812, and you really get you get the historical flavor of that war, which I think is very neat.
Speaking of historical flavor, I love that they added in characters into the card draw deck as well.
Yes.
You have Tecumseh, you had Laura Secord, so you had those different kind of personalities of the war. Getting brought right into it. So
and I think that for me the die rolling is fun enough. I mean, it's meant to be a kind of beer, as they used to say, beer and pretzels type game where you it's just fun. You're rolling a bunch of die. You're seeing there's some strategy with that because you can only roll, for example, 2 British regular
Yes,
dice.
I
So you
love
can
that
have,
mechanic. I love that
yeah,
mechanic.
so you can have 8 of them, but it doesn't mean they can all shoot, and so you end up having to.
It's like the front line and the back line almost, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you want a balanced force. A balanced force is actually going to give you a lot more dice, a lot more opportunities to wipe out an enemy force, which is kind of neat.
And that flee mechanic makes it very interesting as well too, where you have to flee units.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and so that also kind of adds, and then of course they start, especially in the American side, way down south, and have to
Yeah.
traverse, high and
Yeah,
low to get
march
back
all
up
the
to
way
where
back up.
where
Yeah.
the where the action is. So that's a neat kind of recycling mechanic.
Yeah. So I think for what it is, I think it represents the history pretty well. It's a fun game. It's a fun battle. And I think it as an entry point to wargaming, I think this would be a really, really fun fun game for both people who are more into war games and people who are brand new to it or have never played a war game before. I think it's a good introduction.
The timing on it is really is pretty on point too. I think you can get a game in easily in under an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's for a war game, I think that is actually saying something too. So that's kind of a nice a nice feature for especially those like you said the entry level. It's good.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's a nice you you don't want the game to go too long when you're dealing with new players, and about an hour or 45 minutes to an hour probably if once you got the mechanics down and so forth. It gives you enough decision space to be interesting, but not you never feel overwhelmed with choice.
That's right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. So it's
and
it's a great little puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah. So I give my thumbs up to this game. I think it's fun. I like it. I think it's a great little game.
I enjoyed it too, and I'm kind of looking forward to playing it on tabletop. So if we ever
Yes.
are able to track that down, we would. I'd love to try that as well and see how it compares to the digital version.
Yes. Make sure you don't you got a box or something to hold the dice because you don't want them rolling across your board, knocking all the pieces,
Or staying or rolling them on edge.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, we hope this little review gave you a good sense of 1812, the invasion of Canada, and we thank you so much for watching.
This has been
Legendary Tactics.